Welcome to another episode of History in Your Wallet. Today we're going to check out my latest World Banknote acquisitions, which come from several different sources. The first of which is Yuri111 on eBay, one of my favorite eBay sellers. So let's start with this first note here. This is a very striking 100 taka note from Bangladesh, a new note issued in 2025. I actually got this note on the recommendation of one of you guys, Masha and Bear Binge, who commented on one of our earlier unboxing videos. They said that if I liked the 10 taka note that I featured in that video, that I would enjoy this note here with its nature scene that we'll see in a moment. And I have to say, I very much appreciate that recommendation. This is a beautiful note. First off, the color is just vibrant and striking, and it really matches nicely with that pink 10 taka note from earlier. But on the obverse here, you can see a mosque, I believe, and you can also see the tiger watermark over here in the right field. But as we flip it over to the reverse, this is the money shot here that they recommended in that comment, and I have to agree. This is a lovely nature and jungle scene with a tiger down here, maybe some kind of deer or antelope over here on the left. You can also see the date, very small there, 2025. Just a beautiful note. Very happy to pick this one up. It also has a varnish applied to it that you really can't see through the camera lens here. But a lot of these higher value Bangladeshi notes have varnishes applied to them to help them last longer. So pretty cool. And I was happy to add that note. I also picked up this small note here. This is from North Vietnam. It is a one Hao note from 1972. This is my first North Vietnamese banknote. And there's some very lovely lathe work here on the obverse. Nothing particularly fancy to look at, but as we turn it over to the reverse, this is why I bought the note. A really cool scene of a woman feeding pigs. You can see the date down there at the bottom as well. It's a vignette that I had never seen before, and so I was happy to pick this up. I've come to learn that if you see an unusual vignette, sometimes you just jump at the chance to buy it and add it to your collection. You might never really see that one again. So a really cool vignette of a woman feeding pigs. And then my last note from Yuri is a very large note. This is from Turkey. It is a 20,000 lira note, not dated, but it was issued in 1988. You can see their leader at the time pictured here on the obverse. He is also featured in the watermark over on the left here. And then as we turn it over to the reverse, there is a very cool scene of the central bank there in Turkey. That's why I bought this note. I love vignettes that feature central banks or government buildings, and I also really enjoy these kind of large, oversized notes. I was happy to pick this one up, and some very nice scroll work and lathe work here around the peripheral as well. The next note here, I picked this up at my local coin shop. It is a very inexpensive note, very common. It is a 10 kip from Laos. It is not dated, but it was issued sometime between 1979 and 1988. And on the obverse here, you can see what looks to be a lumber mill operation. That's kind of why I picked up this little note here, is for the vignettes, something that's pretty cool. And then as we turn it over to the reverse, you can see a medical scene. So it looks like over here on the left, there might be a couple of nurses taking care of a child. Might have to do with an X-ray. It looks like the picture up here on the wall is an X-ray scene. And then over here on the right, you can see doctors working in the ER, or just kind of in surgery possibly. So really cool. I like these little vignettes that are featured on notes from Lao, and I was glad to pick that up for next to nothing. And then these last three notes came from a regional coin show that I visited recently. The first one here is a 20 shilling note from Austria. This is my first banknote from Austria. It was issued in 1967, as you can see down here. This was originally in a banknotes of all nations folder that was issued, I think, by the Franklin Mint. You see a lot of world banknotes in those folders, and I didn't really care that much about the folder. I just wanted the banknote. So I took it out of the folder and put it into a currency sleeve here. This note is pretty cool because it features this gentleman whose name Carl Reeder, maybe. Apologize, probably butchered that. He was a railroad engineer, and so he designed the Semmering Railroad, which connected communities through Austria, through these mountain passes. And this scene right here, I mean, this sold me on the note, but you can actually see a similar view. It's called the 20 shilling view. You can go to a mountain overlook, and they have a big outline of this 20 shilling note, at least at one time they did. And you can get a very similar, although not exact scene of these railroad bridges that appear on the back of this banknote. So that's pretty cool. I didn't know that when I bought it, but did some research and found that out. It's just a beautiful vignette. And so I very much enjoy picking up a picturesque note like that. The next banknote that we have here is a fairly common note. This is a 1 riel note from Cambodia. It is not dated. It was issued in 1969. The note is very common, although most of them typically appear at a later date. So this is a little bit of an earlier date that's not quite as common. But nevertheless, what sold me on this very inexpensive note is this lovely boat and harbor scene here. So it looks like we might have a fishing trawler over here on the right, maybe a merchant vessel, some sailboats out here on the water. Just a really beautiful scene. Really cool. I love anything that depicts maritime life. And then as we turn it over here on the reverse, some kind of building, could be government building, could be religious building. I'm not sure. I'll have to do some research into that note, but a very cool note that I was happy to pick up with some beautiful scroll work and lathe work around the peripheral here. And then last, but certainly not least, uh, might be possibly my favorite note from this lot here. This is a $1 note from Fiji. It was issued in 1974, although it is not dated, and it shows this really beautiful portrait of Queen Elizabeth II over here on the right. And then there is a local man featured in the watermark here in the circle on the left. But I really love these older notes from Pacific Island nations that feature portraits of the Queen. And then as we turn it over to the reverse, an equally beautiful scene of a beach in Fiji, someplace that I would love to go, put my feet up right now and read a nice book. And so this note really captures that well, takes you right there to that seashore, right along the coast here. And you can even see what looks like maybe some fishermen coming from their latest catch or just going out in their boat over here. Beautifully done by Delarue. So tell me what you think of these banknotes that I picked up. Be sure to like and subscribe. Comment below if you'd like me to research any of these notes in greater detail and feature them in another video. But until next time, thanks for watching.